Welcome in, everybody. It's the Coach Matthew Mitchell Show, and I'm your host, Coach Matthew Mitchell. We are pleased that once again, or maybe for the first time, you have joined us here on the show, and we have a very interesting subject that we're going to tackle this week. But first, we want you to know that the Coach Matthew Mitchell Show is brought to you by CoachMatthewMitchell.com. Go to CoachMatthewMitchell.com. You can find out how we can equip you with the tools to make you and your life, your business, any endeavor you're engaged in, we can make it powerfully productive using the winning tools, honesty, hard work, and discipline, a proven system that has met leadership challenges now for over 20 years and has led me and my leadership to sustained success over that time. And you can find out how to engage us there at CoachMatthewMitchell.com. Also brought to you by my USA Today best-selling book, Ready to Win, How Great Leaders Succeed Through Preparation, available anywhere you buy books online. So pick up a copy of Ready to Win. If you are new to the podcast, let me just bring you up to speed on what's happened in my leadership journey. I was a head coach for women's Division I basketball and highest level of college basketball in America in two programs. I started at Morehead State University, and then I left there after 2 successful years and built a program at the University of Kentucky for 13 years. So 15 years as a Division I college head basketball coach led me on a journey of building our company, our consulting company, The Winning Tools, and CoachMatthewMitchell.com. And for the last 4 years, we have been on the leadership path of building our content out, of serving businesses, large and small, and anywhere in between, and traveled the country, spoken to thousands of people, written 2 books, and created a leadership operating system that is making a difference out in the world, just like it did for those basketball programs. So at the end of March, I made another pivot in my leadership journey, and this one is going back to college basketball. And so now I'm the head women's basketball coach at the University of Houston, and just thrilled with this great new opportunity, as it is allowing me in real time to work the system. So we come to you each and every week, and we'll update you with how we are using our leadership concepts to move that basketball program forward. And I know it's going to be beneficial in helping you move your leadership development, your personal growth, your productivity, your preparation, moving all those things forward in a powerful way. So as I am moving through this part of the journey, I'm just noticing where the winning tools can help me and how it has me prepared to meet these challenges that come my way. We just got done with a great series on how principles power your productivity. And if you want to listen to that, please go back in the episodes and find that. And that was all about how my principles were informing me in the early stages of building the program. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is very exciting for me, because I'm now prepared to build the program because of the things that I learned the last time I was in this position, and the last time I had to make a really big decision to transform the University of Kentucky program when I was leading that. I've learned this from working with business leaders and business organizations over the last 4 years, and have noticed this concept of risk, and how risk and us taking risks in our leadership can really give us an opportunity to grow, or it can give us an opportunity to shrink. And so I want to talk to you in this next series all about navigating risks on the Coach Matthew Mitchell Show. And the series title is Risk and Reward, Mastering Challenges in Leadership. And I am going to teach you what I have learned in this subject about navigating risks productively and taking them on and having the correct mindsets to work your way into successful powerful productivity in your life and in your business, because one thing that we need to accept is that when we are on the path of trying to accomplish something meaningful in our life, there are going to be some risky propositions along the way. There are going to be some risks that come into focus for us that we will either navigate properly or we will shrink from the opportunity, and we want you to be able to navigate that properly. So, understanding the nature of risk is the first thing that I want to talk about. And I want to talk about that by telling you a story of where I really was impacted powerfully and significantly because I was faced with a tremendous challenge. So here is the story, and then we will get into the content of the episode. So back in 2009, I had just completed 2 seasons at the University of Kentucky as the head coach. And I went into that opportunity expecting wild success. I was very confident that what I was going to be able to accomplish would be significant and that we would be tremendously successful. And I was coming off of a couple of successful seasons at Morehead State University. And so I was entering this new challenge at Kentucky with tremendous confidence. And so I worked very hard the first couple of years, but unfortunately, or actually I would say now fortunately, we were mediocre at best through 2 seasons. We were 1 game over 500, 33-32, which is not spectacular by any means. And we had finished the 2008-2009 season with a losing record in the Southeastern Conference. And so while we had a 500 record overall that year, we had a losing record in the Southeastern Conference. And for you people who may not be familiar with college athletics, there's a very top level of college athletics, and nowadays it's called the Power Four. There's 4 conferences where it's the highest level of competition. The top coaches, the top players are generally in this level of competition, and the Southeastern Conference has inhabited that space for decades, for really the entire history of their conference. And so the way you perform as a team in that conference is very important as far as how you're measured in success as a coach. So coming out of that season, that 2008-2009 season, we had not had much success, and we were not predicted to have a lot of success going into the 2009-2010 season. And so I was very concerned about the health of the program. I was concerned, quite honestly and frankly, about my career. Was I even going to be able to make it at this level of coaching basketball? And I was up against some of the all-time great coaches in the history of the game. And so as I had entered with a lot of confidence in 2007, as I was entering 2009, 2010, I'll have to admit my confidence was not at an all-time high. So trying to put together a successful season, we were picked to finish at the bottom of the Southeastern Conference in the 2009-2010 season. Before the season starts, the coaches get together and vote on who they think is going to win the championship, and then it goes all the way down to who will come in last, and you turn in your ballot, and they tabulate that. And so all of the people who should know and should be able to predict what's going to happen that next season, they predicted us to be near the bottom. 10th place out of a 12-team conference was where we were picked. So not only was my confidence low in what I was doing, everyone's confidence was low about what was going to happen in that season. And so I tried my best to block out that noise and try to focus on what we needed to do, and attempted to prepare the team for the upcoming season. There was a pivotal point about 3 weeks before the season started. We played in a scrimmage game that was not open to the public. It was really just a practice game against a program that really wouldn't be considered on the level of the Southeastern Conference and wouldn't be considered at the very top level of college basketball. But it was just a good practice game for us to play someone different, and for that program to play a different game and come into Lexington and have a different experience. So we would have been heavily favored in this game, and that day did not go well at all. And we actually lost the game to a team that would not be able to even think about challenging for the top of the Southeastern Conference and the top of the league. So it was a very disappointing day. And so I was faced with the decision to make. The way I was coaching the team was at that point in time, was very by the book. And I was not taking many risks in how I was constructing the team, constructing our style of play. I was doing it in a very traditional manner, and a manner that was considered comfortable by industry standards. All right. So you may have experienced something like this in your life, in your leadership, but I was playing it pretty safe, working hard, wanting us to be successful, but was trying to play a traditional brand of basketball. But what I was faced with was a decision that I had to make. And the way we were constructed clearly was not going to allow us to compete at a high level. Hence the defeat we took that day to a smaller school, less talented school. But we were faced with a decision, and it was very close. We had invested a lot of time in our team up to that point, and we were only about 3 weeks away, about 20 days away from starting the season. And so as I looked at the team, I had to make a decision, and it was risky. But I decided to take the risk and completely change the way that team was constructed, how we were going to play, and really basically scrap everything that we had worked on for those many months. We'd started putting the team together in June. This is now late October, and so we had invested a lot in what we were doing. So the risk was to leave what we thought was going to be successful in the first place and try something totally new, which was risky that it could possibly not work. Or we could stick with what we were doing and run the risk of never reaching our potential, but possibly if we spent more time on it and did more reps and just tried a little bit harder, maybe that would work out. So I had to make this decision. I talked to a couple people, and I can remember the word, what you're thinking about is risky. It may not work. And so ultimately, just the way I've learned what I'm going to teach you in this series, I did it out of desperation. And what I want to teach you is what I learned out of that desperate moment. But I can remember wise counsel I'd gotten from my dad, John Mitchell, all of my life. If something's not working, have the courage to make a change. And I think of and he was no expert in basketball, but he was a definite expert in leadership and living a life of integrity. And that was really the ultimate piece of advice that I got that gave me the intestinal fortitude to make the decision and really start over from scratch with only 3 weeks left before the season started. So what we did is we changed our style of play. We changed from a traditional style of basketball, and I could do a whole podcast on that, but we went from a traditional style of basketball where most of the top programs, this was how they were playing in a traditional manner, and we went to a very non-traditional style of play that was much faster and much more aggressive, and actually did take some risks on the basketball court in order to create some rewards for our basketball team. And so what I learned out of that is what I'm going to be teaching you. And in that season, when we took the risk to change, we were able to reap a fantastic reward. And I will give you some examples as we go through this series. But ultimately, we were able to go from being picked 10th out of 12 to we actually challenged for the championship. We finished second ultimately in the conference, and that was the best that the Kentucky program had done in many, many years. We made it to the NCAA tournament. We weren't expected to go to the NCAA tournament, which is the kind of the holy grail of competition in college basketball. And not only did we make the NCAA tournament, we advanced and won 3 games in it and got to the Elite Eight, one step away from the Final Four. And so it was a remarkable season of achievement by any stretch of the imagination or any way that you would measure achievement. That team accomplished so much, and it really was the team that started our upward trajectory that allowed us to become a championship level program at Kentucky for over a decade. That was the team that did that. So as I now saddle up for my 3rd basketball program to lead, I am noticing there are changes that need to be made, and there are all sorts of risks associated with whatever decisions that I need to make because I'm pursuing something meaningful. I want the Houston program to be wildly successful. I want it to be a place where a young person can come and chase her dreams and really develop into her full potential as a person, as a student, as a player, and that she can use the experience to prepare her for success on the court. But when that day, and the day comes for every competitive basketball player, the day when you're no longer valuable as a basketball player, I want the experience to have been a benefit to you as a person. I want it to be a place where families can send their daughter with confidence to Houston and know that it's going to be an experience that has some depth to it and has some great value to it. So that is a high aspiration that I have. And so there will be decisions that I need to make along the way where we'll have to take some risks from time to time. And so this is what I want to teach you in this series. And in this first episode, let's just discuss what is risk and what have I noticed and how have I noticed people generally defining something that's risky or a risk. So I want you to listen to some of these definitions of risk. So one is the possibility that something unpleasant or unwelcome will happen. Here's another definition: a situation involving exposure to danger. A third, expose someone or something valued to danger, harm, or loss. And the final one I want to share with you, risk is an act. It's when you act or fail to act in such a way as to bring about the possibility of an unpleasant or unwelcome event. And so what are we talking about here in this series is emotional risk that leaders face. And so we certainly are not going to put our people that we, value into harm's way physically, but what I really want you to think about are the emotional risks that we're faced with as leaders. And how do we navigate that? And how do we navigate the risks successfully so we can feel the reward of achievement at the end of our endeavor? And so the common theme in all of those definitions as it relates to what we're going to discuss is that uncertainty that life deals us when we're faced with a big decision, the potential negative outcome that so often in my leadership that my mind has gone to in my life. I have so many times been faced with a leadership challenge, and my mind goes directly to the potential negative outcomes based on the decision that I made. A lot of doubt in the past would creep into my leadership when I had not learned the lesson of navigating risk successfully. And so this is what I want to help you with as you are contemplating the aspirations you have as a performer, as a producer, as a leader. All right, so let's talk about what I have noticed and I've learned through my leadership, but also coaching basketball. But really, I've noticed this also the last 4 years coaching in the business world. And there are some common leadership risks that I see leaders trying to avoid at all costs, that I see them detaching from, that I see them trying to ignore these leadership risks that come their way. There are 3 things that I see in leadership that are very difficult for people to navigate. And it's conflict, it's confrontation, and it's comfort. These are 3 things that are very, very difficult. High degree of difficulty for leaders to navigate when they don't have the tools to meet the moment. And there's three negative mindsets that occur that are associated with conflict, with confrontation, and with comfort that I want to expose you to and make you think about, because if this is happening in your leadership, I want to encourage you that there is a way to navigate these feelings successfully and these situations. The first situation that I see leaders struggling with is conflict. And so what is conflict? Conflict is serious disagreement that when avoided and when not approached in a constructive manner, conflict will often hinder a leader's progress. The next leadership risk is confrontation. And so confrontation is facing and dealing with difficult situations or people. And when that is avoided, that hinders someone's progress in leadership. And so when we are unable to confront in a constructive way and confront in an open and honest way with some emotional maturity, that causes difficulties in our leadership. And the third leadership risk that I see leaders struggling with is their comfort, and in particularly a movement out of their comfort zone. So leaders who resist being moved out of their comfort zone are absolutely limiting their growth. And so I want you to see if you can identify if there's any place where these negative mindsets, there's three negative mindsets that show up that help us stay away from meeting these leadership risks, that when we learn how to take these risks and we learn how to navigate them successfully, there's huge reward on the other side. So the thing that I see when people are struggling with conflict, a negative mindset they have is detachment. So the leader disengages, leaves, or separates from the challenge. They just get away from it. They just act. When I'm detached from a leadership challenge, it's as if I'm acting like the leadership challenge doesn't exist. And so I have seen leaders have it shown to them that they need to resolve some conflict that's going on in the organization. And I have seen detachment be so powerful that they will actually deny that the conflict exists. So in a basketball locker room, if I'm the head coach and I find out that there is some conflict between a couple of players or a couple of groups. So in basketball, you have guards, you have forwards, and you have post players, and they play positions. So the post players play close to the basket. Usually the guards, let's say, are playing out on the perimeter. And so sometimes you need the guards to get the ball inside to the post player with a pass. And so sometimes when that exchange is not happening successfully, there can be some conflict, and the guards will blame the post, and the post will blame the guards, and there's conflict, and they're blaming each other, and there's a lot of negativity swirling right there between the two position groups. So one group saying, I'm throwing great passes and they won't catch the ball. The other group saying they're throwing terrible passes, I can't catch the ball. And so there's conflict there, and it is slowing down our productivity. Now, the risk is if I face that and I go into the conflict, there's a lot of risk for people, because that can be so uncomfortable for you. You may not know how to engage in that in a healthy way. You may just absolutely detach from that because it's so uncomfortable. Where the leadership challenge, when we meet it, we need to step in and we need to resolve the conflict no matter how long it takes, how hard it is. We need to face. We can't detach. We need to face the conflict. We need to resolve the conflict in a healthy way. So that is one of the leadership risks that I will see people really struggle with. The second is confrontation. And so the negative mindset that's created and the way people cope with it in a negative way, confrontation, is avoidance. So the leader just stays away from the challenging area of their leadership. They delay a challenging decision, or they stop meeting the challenge altogether. They just avoid the confrontation. And so confrontation is so necessary to be able to resolve conflict, what we just talked about, and to get to a place where both people can understand where the path is, where we need to march forward together and be successful. And so confrontation must be met, just like conflict has to be met. And then the third leadership risk is that comfort zone of leaders not wanting to get out of their comfort zone, and the negative mindset that prevents them from getting out of their comfort zone, oftentimes, and I learned this personally, is perfectionism. And so leaders become paralyzed by the need to perfectly solve a challenge, and so they refuse to get out of their comfort zone or start moving out of their comfort zone because they want to wait until everything gets perfect before they take action. So the reason that these seem so risky to us as leaders is because so oftentimes we're not able to go into these and resolve conflict, confrontation, or move out of our comfort zone because our emotions are not healthy enough to do this in a constructive way. There is a way to constructively move through conflict. There's a way to constructively move through confrontation and have a healthy confrontation. And there's a way that we can find courage and move out of our comfort zone. And so what I want to do in this series is I want to help you understand how to meet these risks and how to navigate them in a productive manner, and how to think about engaging in an emotionally healthy way that actually shows up as results for you and positive results for you. The way I want to make that shift is I want to give you an acronym about risk. And this is what we will discuss over the coming episodes, and how we will help you to navigate these immense leadership challenges where we try to avoid risky situations that appear in our leadership. So let's break down the RISK acronym. RISK, what does it stand for? So R, we're going to recognize the opportunity. I, we're going to identify consequences of either dealing with the risk or avoiding the risk. S, we're going to learn how to strategize responsibly so we can move through the risk productively. And K, we will keep grounded in our principles and find comfort in our principles. And you all know, if you've listened before, but if you've never listened, our principles, the winning tools: honesty, hard work, and discipline. So over the next 4 episodes, we'll break down each part of that acronym, RISK: recognize, identify, strategize. And then in the final episode of the series, we're going to focus in on the rewards of navigating risk and being able to meet these risky, what we deem as risky leadership situations and challenges. And the reward of being able to do that successfully is going to be immense. So I'm very excited about sharing this series with you. I think it's going to make a big difference. I've already noticing the benefit of knowing how to understand that there's so many risky things that are just actually just emotions that we're having a hard time dealing with. And over the course of these next few episodes, we're going to learn how to find our courage and how to meet what we perceive as risky situations and navigate those successfully and get to the reward of that successful navigation. And so I want you to hear this great quote from Sir Winston Churchill. that can sum up some mindsets that we want to create, and something that I think is so relatable to how we approach using the winning tools to fuel our personal growth and to fuel our leadership and to fuel our sustained success. But the quote is this: success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And that is a wonderful quote about sustained success, because we are going to have these moments in our leadership journey where we achieve just spectacular accomplishments in our leadership, and that is going to happen. But what we will learn if we will embrace the winning tools is that success is not final. We will need to keep going, and we'll need to learn the lessons from that success so we can apply it to the next opportunity, and we can continue to work toward being successful in the next project, task, goal we have. We'll also learn that failure is not fatal, that we've been talking about this in past episodes, but shifting this mindset of shifting from losses to lessons, and just embracing the mindset that there are no losses, there are only lessons. If we fall short of the goal, all that means is there's an opportunity to learn a lesson so we're better for the next opportunity. And it is the courage to continue that counts, having the courage to strengthen your leadership, to grow, have a growth mindset, grow your character. That all takes courage. And so I wanted to end the podcast, this episode, the first installment of our Risk and Reward Mastering Challenges in Leadership. I wanted to end the episode with that quote, and I want you to be encouraged by that quote and think about that. I'd love for you to write that down and keep it as a companion, because it's going to be so helpful as we work through this series. So make sure that you are ready to roll and visit CoachMatthewMitchell.com. You can find us there. You can find everything you need to put into your leadership toolbox to move your personal growth forward, to move your team forward in their leadership journey. It's right there at CoachMatthewMitchell.com. Check out Ready to Win, our book, Ready to Win, How Great Leaders Succeed Through Preparation. That's important. If you are new to the podcast, or if you have frequently visited and haven't subscribed, I would invite you to subscribe to the podcast. It's a wonderful way to be connected to our community. It's a wonderful way to support what we're doing here. So I would ask you, and then maybe get on the phone tonight and call about 100 of your friends and ask them to go on and subscribe to the podcast. That would be extremely helpful. And I would be, you would have my deepest gratitude if you could call. I know you have friends, and I know you have a bunch of them. So call your 100 closest friends and ask them to subscribe. And we will continue along this journey of adding great value to your life and your leadership. And we do that each and every week here on the Coach Matthew Mitchell Show. Thanks so much for coming by this week, and we'll see you next week.